everybody hates this review. There's a channel called Psyche, and I'll be honest, this is a channel that I've watched a lot. He has actually, generally speaking, some really good reviews when it comes to gacha games. I've watched him do his Nikkei coverage, Honkai Star Rail. I watched his what's it called? Raid Shadow Legends video. Did a great job. He does a good job, generally speaking, on his reviews for gacha titles. But now he's taking a foray into a game that is no longer a gacha, was going to be a gacha, and talking about Duet Night Abyss. I'm gonna be honest, from what I'm seeing everywhere, everybody hates this review, which is like a little bit surprising to me. So I want to go in, see what he's talking about, see about why everybody's harping on this review so much, and see what he has to say. Psyche, if you see this, I'm a fan of your content, generally speaking. There's no malice behind this, but I want to see what everyone's so upset about.
Duet Night Abyss has just launched, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it's all that impressive. The game boasts one of the first mobile games that was formerly a gacha but transitioned to a gacha-less model afterwards, with the incentives that it's a game that respects your time and no fear of missing out in its mechanics. It certainly sounds a bit too good to be true, and let's be real here, it is.
Well, okay. If you, if you're, depends on what you're trying to look for in your time. Like if you're looking for a game that you can sink your time into, that you want to be able to grind, like in almost like a pseudo MMO kind of style where you can continue to progress in those small ways, that's not gated by time mechanics, then like, yeah, like it is going to give you that. Like, is it going to be the best thing since sliced bread? The best use of your time all the time? Probably not. Go play an indie game if you want that. But if like you're looking for like a live service game that doesn't have FOMO mechanics, because generally speaking, you can farm everything in the game, like that seems to be pretty on point.
Hi, my name is Psyche, and I'll be breaking down each of DNA's features and let you know what I think if it's good or bad for the future of gacha games. However, despite all of what was promised, the thing I think DNA will struggle with the most is something more ingrained in its design, and not actually related to the monetization or farming mechanics. So today I have a lot to say about this potential future giant indie gacha gaming space. Let's get right down to it.
I am already scared. I think I can already feel like where this is going. What I'm smelling right now is that he's about to review this game like it's a gacha game, but it's not. Like, I get that there's the crossover with the gacha community because it got a lot of its excitement out of being a gacha game. A lot of people were interested, and that's where the snowball started, but it's not a gacha game anymore. The only gacha component is on the cosmetics, which is like, so yes, could you still technically nickel and dime me on like definitions here and technically is it a gacha game? On the cosmetics, yes, but none of the rest of it is. So I'm already nervous, Psyche. This might have been a big misplay. So I've skipped through the ad and his recap for the game, and I'll say overall his recap for the game is pretty on point. He's managed to touch on all the kind of like core elements of the gameplay and experience. It seems to be fairly accurate. The only thing he doesn't really go into much depth on is the genie mons, talking about how they can actually impact your gameplay and stuff overall, give you a little bit of a better experience. I think we're actually starting to get into some of the actual controversial part of this. So if you want to watch this full video, I'll have it linked in the description down below. But I think for the sake of this video, we're just going to jump right into what seems to be some of the more controversial components.
So, one of Duet Night Abyss's main attractions is the promise of a no stamina system, respecting the player's time, they said. You can farm whenever you want. Is all of that actually true? Let's see. Heading into the combat tab, you'll access many...
The answer's yes, by the way. So you can just farm pretty much anything.
Different commission types to complete for loot drops. All sorts of goodies can be farmed here, such as XP for your characters or weapons, demon wedges as the relic system for set bonuses, ascension material, and wins to farm for new characters and weapons. You can do these alone or in co-op, and some will take longer than others. In theory, if you wanted to max out a character, you can just grind for hours and you'll be able to achieve just that. So, the lack of stamina is a good thing, right? Well, in my opinion, not really. When you do a normal commission, you can use a booster to increase the drop rate of rewards for that run, with some of the better boosters netting you up to 20 times the rewards. The problem is that you have to buy these with premium currency.
You can also force them at an incredibly steep rate. But these are also just like boosts. Like if you don't have the boost, you could still run it. You can still go and farm it if you want to do that.
While you can make the argument that this is still better than having a stamina system since you can just farm whenever you want, you also have to come to terms that someone that's willing to pay a little extra will progress faster than you, even though you both put in the same amount of effort. Whether this bothers you is purely subjective. No stamina system also means that you don't get player XP from just completing commissions. You can check...
Well, hold on. At best, that argument is like a net neutral then, because he's starting to compare basically the gacha model in terms of stamina management versus the grinding management. And I'm saying that option to accelerate things with money, like that's the same in a gacha game. Like in a gacha game, like you can pay for additional stamina. Or you don't even have to, like, you know, grind some of the things to get like new characters. You just buy the new characters. So that idea of being able to accelerate things with money, at best in terms of an argument, is that's available in both of the monetizations for the game. But the difference is there's no price barrier to unlocking characters in Duet Night Abyss. Still seems like a win from where I'm sitting.
Check what activities give player XP, but since the better commissions drop mats at a higher rate, you want to raise that level quick. Also, one extra kudos I gotta give is that the game lets you equip the same Demon Wedge on multiple characters or weapons. So, since you're gonna need like 20 of these per character, that's at least one less thing to worry about. I'm gonna talk.
Yeah, like to build those Demon Wedges is extremely costly. Extremely costly, like for the amount that you need to actually get one to send it up to gold and then to send it up higher when it's a gold Demon Wedge. So I think it was absolutely the right play to make them transferable between characters, because if not, that's too much grind. That is too much.
Talk about my thoughts on the character and weapon system now. You have to get the secret letter currency, then buy the secret letter of the character or weapon, then run the covert commission for the chance for their shard to drop. I'm not going to explain all of it in detail again since I did it in the sponsored video. Anyways, 30 of it equals one copy of them. In short, I think the system is good, but not as good as you think. First, I'd like to point out that you can skip the grind with the premium currency. This will cost you around $50 with some leftover, assuming you have the first top-up bonus. Do I have a problem that you can skip the grind with real money? No, not really. If you consider
Good, because I was going to say, if we're marking it against like a regular typical gacha grinding, like, can you basically ignore a gacha banner by just spending money and getting the character anyway? Like, yeah. Yeah, like it's the same. The difference is it's still the characters are farmable in game. Like, why are we just like ignoring that component? I feel like, is he really like approaching that?
Consider that if you were to try using top-up packs to guarantee a 5-star in the conventional gacha game, you're likely gonna have to spend upwards of a couple $100s. So $50 in that context, not so much anymore. However, you also have to keep in mind that each character has 6 dupe levels, and they all require 30 shards each. Because the shards are earnable in-game, this gives the devs and dedicated players room to make the dupe levels drastic increases to the character's strength, and defend that you can just grind it for free, so there's no problems here. That may be true.
Yeah, because gacha games do the same thing. Like so many gacha games, like if we use like Genshin as a perfect example, if you got a limited 5-star character to like it's a 6 like duplicate, I forget what it's even called. I've been so away from Genshin for so long now. Like it's a massive power spike for basically all of the characters. Almost all gacha games do this. The only exception might be, what was the one that was out, the other PvP one that was out not that long ago, that it was mostly just stat boosts. They didn't do a ton in terms of like enabling the kit in different ways. Like all gacha games have this when it comes to their dupe system in some form or another. So it's like, yes, getting dupes of the characters makes them stronger, but you don't have to pay for that. You can grind it out in game. And even then, from the price standpoint, seems way cheaper even in this model too, if we are going from like a purchasing standpoint. Why are we saying this is bad?
True, except you have to factor in the amount of time you have to spend to do it, and will everyone have that much time on their hands? This is of course not including all the other ways you can upgrade the character, and acquiring weapons also has a similar grinding system. I should also
So hold on, but it doesn't matter about the amount of time you have on your hands because there's no FOMO. Like you don't have to farm the character in a particular window and then you can never get the character again. So even if it's like, oh, well, I don't have, 30 hours a week I can drop on playing Duet Night Abyss so I can do the farming for the character. So I'm going to fall behind. It's like, fine, play at your own pace. There's no reason to have to push faster. There's no limited or gated content. So it doesn't matter if it takes long to grind, other than if you don't like the grind.
Also mention that the rate in which you get the secret letter clues is limited. While you still can farm these at a slower rate by manually farming, it's just another process you have to go through to get what you want. The lack of a stamina system is honestly a double-edged sword, if you ask me. In a normal gacha game, you'll press one button to spend your stamina to farm for all you can, then you're done for the day and you can spend your time doing other things. You do this every day or whenever you can. It's quick sessions of stimulus that expose you to just enough to form a habit and slow down your progression. From a player retention perspective, it works great and probably why the vast majority of mobile games have them. It will continue to have them in the foreseeable future.
They also use it from a monetization standpoint because then you need to pay for additional stamina if you do want to keep playing. Like, and then they can charge you for doing that. They're stopping you from playing the game. I don't see that as necessarily a positive.
On the other hand, when you do the exact same thing over and over again for 3 hours, you're going to experience burnout. Even if you can fully complete the 6 dupe levels in like 2 hours, that's still going to be a lot of time for some people. Plus,
yes, if you're not into a heavy grind in the game.
Given that dupes are drastic power increases, it can often feel that if you don't complete the farming for the dupes, the character feels incomplete.
Yeah, but you don't. Why are you expecting them to be complete immediately though? Like part of the joy of this game is to build up your characters. like to do that. Like it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So like, yes, get the introns over time. You don't need to put your entire farming session in one 8-hour day to go, I'm just going to sit here and farm secret letters for this one character till I get them to intron 6. You don't have to do that. You can spread that out over a month. If it took you 2 months to get to intron 6 on a character, who cares? There's no reason to push yourself harder than that if you don't have the time to do it. That's the point. That's the point of no FOMOs. You can farm it as much as you need to whenever you want to.
I imagine what will inevitably happen is that people will optimize the hell out of this game. Fastest farming routes, fastest teams to do mission types, fastest commission types to run. I tried to unlock a few characters and I was able to unlock a copy of Sybil in like 30 minutes. Now, since the covert commissions refresh every hour, this means you can wait until you see a mission type that's way shorter to complete. I think the best one out right now is the dismantle mission type. You can basically zoom across the map and delete the 3 beacon points in less than a minute. I found
Yeah, like look, some of the farming stages for this like are incredibly fast, especially when you're doing co-op. So like, I think he's edging on a good point here. But I'm going to let him finish saying what he's saying here first before I talk about that, where you could make a good argument here in this circumstance.
Found this to be extremely efficient in farming the shard, and even though part of it does come down to luck, this is what I would do if I wanted to unlock a character fast. I couldn't care less about playing these levels. These are just the means to get what I want, and I want to get past this chore as fast as I can. Circling back to the topic of player retention, for anything that requires a concentrated...
You don't really care about the gameplay in those farming missions when it comes to like the secret letters, or the covert missions. So... like that's what I'm saying. He's edging on a valid point. So far, he's edging on a valid point.
Amount of brain usage, you're gonna get exhausted both mentally and physically. Even though you know that the game is fun, you're also likely to mentally associate your exhaustion as a consequence of playing the game.
Again, you're only likely to experience that if you are forcing yourself to do all of it right away to try and sprint through the content to max your character like instantly. But the game is meant to be played over a period of time. Like, you don't need to get Intron 6 to play Lyn. I've been playing Intron 1, maybe Intron 1 Lyn for a week now. Maybe a week. I don't even know. And, like, she's fine. She's fine in all the earlier content. Like, would you be way stronger at Intron 6? Sure, and eventually over time I'll get her there. You don't need to max Introns immediately. Like, that's like saying that you need to, like, C6 your Malvika before you can play her. What?
If you take a look at numerous surveys, the average gaming session for a mobile user is around 5 minutes. Now you might argue, well, DNA is not a mobile game. Okay, well, did you know that the platform distribution for players in Genshin Impact, which many would agree to be the benchmark of the gacha industry, about 65% of players are on mobile. A large portion of the player base for these games are on their phones. You can see how we might be running into a problem here. Mobile games are designed for quick bursts of play.
Sorry. He tries to gloss over that really quickly. He goes, look, the stats based on Genshin, 65% makes them mobile players. Then he makes a false equivalency there to say, well, Duet Night Abyss therefore is the same, and 65% of Duet Night Abyss players are going to be mobile players as well. I don't think he's wrong that there's going to be a decent number, but you can't just make that comparison or that one-to-one jump to be like, let's go off of the same thing. See, look, most of them are mobile players. There's no evidence to suggest that the vast majority of Duet Night Abyss players are playing on mobile, especially with the performance-related issues. I would be shocked if the majority of players are still on mobile with the performance issues. I've really tried. I was even trying to do my phone on mobile, or my PlayStation controller, Bluetooth to my phone to try and play it in that way, and I was having crazy performance issues. So to think that it's going to be that high of a percentage, I think is just not believable. I think the vast majority is probably still weighed on PC because of the performance related issues as of right now. Maybe that could change, but you can't make that like direct equivalency, because now that he's made that equivalency that I don't think you can make, he's now trying to run to say, therefore, this is how mobile players play. That's totally fair if we were talking about like a mobile only game and that was the general thing, but I'm not accepting that premise. So this whole next point of argumentation is just completely invalid to me when we're talking about like play times and experience. And again, within Duet Night Abyss, even if we did accept all of that, you don't need to put in crazy hour play sessions into Duet Night Abyss. You can log in, do a couple secret letter runs, and log out. The best part about not having the stamina is it's not requiring you to play every day. There's no stamina gates of like, well, you're overcapping on your stamina. Now, if you don't log in, it's now punishing you down the line. There's no punishment for not playing Duet Night Abyss. There is a punishment for not using a stamina system. The one thing, I don't know why he's not going here. The closest point of argumentation here that I think so far he could have made that is totally valid is that the covert farming missions and many of those farming missions in the early game, and he was kind of touching on this, but I think this is way more valid. is that that part is the worst. Like in terms of when he was saying like, oh, you just are trying to get through those letter missions as fast as possible because they just are getting in the way of you getting the character and getting what you want. There is some truth to that. I've had play sessions doing co-op when I was, farming some of the secret letters for Hellfire, for example, where I spent 30 minutes running covert letter missions, just literally jumping through. Didn't attack a single enemy once because the people I was doing the farming with didn't require me to do anything. Yes, at that point, it does start to feel like, I wish there was a way to accelerate this because I feel like I'm literally just helix jumping through levels so I can finish it, so I can roll on the letter. There could be some refinement there. You could make the argument that like, hey, I think even the base reward drop rates on these letters needs to be higher. And so I can have like a better experience with that. You could argue, well, just go in solo so you can feel like you're actually playing the game more and getting more out of those missions. I guess you could make that argument, but I think in a game that's designed around a co-op experience, you want the co-op experience to be enjoyable. So maybe there's something more to like the tiered matchmaking that could make it so you're paired with other characters of a similar power, so you're actually getting a chance to try those farming missions. But it's fair to say that it's like, yes, you're trying to accelerate that, so having more boosts to make that happen faster would be nice. Would be nice, being the key factor here. The thing is, at the end of the day, you can still farm the character. You can still C6 or Intron 6 a character for free, and it's not time sensitive. Even on Psyche, who right now you can only get through the immersive theater. Eventually, she's going to be moved, I believe, into the nocturnal missions, where on the weekly boss missions, where you're gonna be able to farm her letters there. I think that's what they're eventually moving her into. Right now, she's just the new character, so she's on the immersive theater. There's nothing time sensitive about that that's going to force you to have to do an extended play session to unlock that character. And if you're a gacha-like player who wants to accelerate your time and you're okay with putting money into a game because you want to speed it up, okay, then put the money in and buy the books. The only thing I think that's valid here is I think the baseline rewards should be increased for not using the boosts. That would be nice. Make some of those farming missions feel a little bit more impactful when you're doing them, even at a baseline. Yes, that would be nice. But the rest of that is like, what are we even talking about? What are we even talking about with this?
Playtime during your breaks or lunch. It was never meant to be played for prolonged periods. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, if you will. Whether or not DNA system will backfire is anyone's guess. Now you may be wondering,
I don't think it's going to backfire. I just think it's going to cater towards people who don't want to drop 100 bands to unlock a character and they're okay with grinding.
Alright, genius, if you think both having stamina or not having it are bad ideas, then what do you suggest? Oh, I got a suggestion, alright, but it's never going to be implemented. I propose that you just need to get rid of all the methods to upgrade a character. You don't need to farm materials to level or ascend them. You don't need to level or ascend weapons. Get rid of the demon wedge system. Get rid of leveling skills. When you get a character, you can passively level them from running stages, but that's it. When you
get rid of the grind, remove the game. But the whole, like, you just say that you don't like this game. Like, just say that you don't like this kind of game where you have to like feel that incremental progression and growth within the character over a longer period of time. Just say that you want to be able to buy power for a character and max it out. Like, that is the core of this game is building characters. You're grinding out stages, you're grinding out missions, and then eventually when you get to the end game, you're doing more of that like hardcore competitive, like trying to like push those stages. But the vast majority of gameplay for this game is grinding progression for characters. And you've basically just walked in and said, yeah, just remove the game. Just remove the grind. I don't know what's happening here. I want to dial it back for a sec. I'm getting really worked up because like I like Psyche's videos. His other gacha reviews that he's done, I think he's been really on point for a lot of those videos. I don't know what's happening in this one. I think it's just he's trying to review it like a gacha game, but it's just not. It's a different player base. It's a different experience, and it's just the fundamental framework for this review is just falling apart for me.
You get a weapon, you already have it at the strongest point it can be, your skills can be passively leveled or unlocked as a flat version that doesn't change. No RNG gear system as well. You can switch between different skill sets, but you don't need to grind for this. I think
are the demon wedges, I don't think the demon wedges themselves are RNG. I think the demon wedges, like it's RNG for the drops on the demon wedges, but I think the demon wedges are fixed based on what's on them. Or am I wrong on that? But yeah, so it's not what he's thinking there.
I think the only way you can solve the stamina issue is to just remove what you are using it for. Obviously, for mobile games that incentivize daily logins, this absolutely...
What? Just remove the gameplay that you're using the stamina for, or don't stamina gate it and just let people play it. Like the fix here is, hey, the grind is too aggressive. And people will be burned out. People who don't want to grind that heavily, even people who are willing to do it over time, they need to boost the baseline reward so you don't need to grind as much. I think that's fine. I think it's fine to say that. But just to remove all the gameplay, just delete the game. You know what? Just uninstall. The best way to improve Duet Night Abyss, just uninstall.
Cannot happen. So my suggestion will just forever be that. I would also like to comment on the gacha list system as well. Despite not having a stamina system, you'll still be barred by the rate you can acquire them. This system is great if you have a lot of time to game and find the grind to be addicting. I'm sure there will be a crowd for it. I overall think this system is fine, just not that much of an improvement over a traditional gacha system. If you don't—
It is! It is! Ah! I'm going crazy! I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, look, at best, if I'm giving my most generous interpretation of his argument right now, is that he's saying, what you've traded off is in gacha games, it's limited farming, and you're likely gonna have to spend some money to unlock the new characters when you're grinding out and playing them. But Duet Night Abyss, you have to put in so much time that the amount of time you trade, it's not worth it. So like it's still costing you in the long run. But the difference is Duet Night Abyss gives you both. You can walk in, and if you want to just buy the character, you can walk in and buy the character if you don't want to spend the time grinding. Just like how in a gacha game, you don't have to grind out a gacha game if you just want to walk in and buy the character and respect your time. If you want to grind and get the character and raise the character on your own time and not drop 100 bands on a new character when they drop, then you can do that. It's just fundamentally different. The difference is you are forced basically into spending on a gacha game to keep up with it and to get all the new characters and progression, where Duet Night Abyss, you don't. If you want to say the grind is still too heavy on Duet Night Abyss, fine, boost the grind, but you don't.
You don't want to spend hours of your time on this, though. The only alternative will be to pay up. But hey, a valid argument is that you won't have to risk the random chances to save up for months just to not get what you want. If you put in the effort, you will get the character. However, there are people that think otherwise. This is gonna sound insane, but gambling is really fun. There are people out there that play gacha games precisely because of the thrill. Think about how—
Okay, this whole argument does not matter. This whole argument is irrelevant because guess what? It's not a gacha game. Like, what the fuck is happening? I'm actually getting so heated right now. It's not a gacha. So I was saying, like, well, if the monetize, like, people aren't gonna like Hollow Knight because Hollow Knight doesn't have a gacha, and you know you can't roll on the characters in Hollow Knight. So like, gacha players aren't going to enjoy that. Okay, it's not a gacha game. There is a gacha for some of the skins, but it is not a gacha game. None of this argument should be here.
how good it felt to land that 5-star in a single pull, while the rest of the plebeians had to go to pity for the same thing. Now that
Yes,
certainly
people
was a
love
highlight.
gambling.
I'm more
People
to think
love
that
feeling
the
lucky.
no gacha option is still better than having one, though I feel as if though DNA's approach may not be what some mobile gamers are looking for. So here's
If what some mobile gamers are looking for is gambling, then yeah. But why are we talking about that?
what I propose to be the true solution to the no gacha problem. You still have daily missions and events that give out the gacha tokens at a controlled rate. However, when you go into the gacha screen, instead of seeing the 1 or 10 pull option, you just see a single button. 10,000 gems to get this character.
You made a whole argument about why gambling is the important component to it, but then you've just said, but actually, you can just walk in and buy it. You just removed it yourself. How does this... Why is this? I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy.
No
I'm
gambling
falling
here.
apart over
If
here.
you click the button, you will get it. There's no ambiguity or 50-50 rate up chances. We've retained the casual nature of gacha games while getting rid of the gambling aspect. If there's a gacha game willing to go this route, that'd be something I praise all day. Overall, I think DNA systems are fine. I think it does things differently enough that people will be giving it a fair shot. It's just not what I believe to be objective improvements over what gacha games have had in the past. Of course,
That's the most bullshit thing I've heard in my entire life. It is 100% objectively better. It is 100% objectively better because, like I said, Duet Night Abyss, you can choose to purchase a character if you want to respect your time, or you grind the character if you have the time to spend. It's the same, if not worse, for a gacha game where you have to basically purchase and hopefully save enough on a character. There is no option to grind. So if you want to get them and you have to close that gap, you have to spend. And if you want to grind in that game for any kind of progression, you are gated by stamina. You are forced to stop. It's objectively, by every metric, even better. Objectively.
Of course, that doesn't exactly mean gacha is taken out of the game for good. DNA is using a cosmetics-focused monetization approach. While there are many deals in the game accessories and full outfits, the upper echelon of the cosmetics goes to these gacha skins. I suspect something like this would happen, since the game still has to make some money somehow. This means they're going to be a bit more
that's what everybody was saying.
stingy with the skins. As you can see, the rates are really not in your favor here. A 0.3% chance to land a premium cosmetic, and it's split into different rewards. Now, when a gacha gets transferred to a skin gacha, then the value of it becomes a lot more subjective. After all, how much would you be willing to pay for this? Some people absolutely don't care about skins. Some people play games because of them. Since the characters are farmable, this gives room for the developers to be as stingy as they want with the skins, and you really can't argue against it. If they wanted to make some $60 skins, some $200 skins, you know what I'm saying? Then they're kind of free to do so. You can bet that you won't be getting a lot of free pulls here. I would also like to point out that DNA is definitely not the first to have a skin gacha. There are numerous examples of older gachas that have had this approach. It just happens to be the first that's also a high budget release. Me, personally, I don't have a problem with this, but that's mainly because I don't really care about cosmetics most of the time. There will be people that really want these skins, so the skin gacha really isn't something I can make a good objective judgment on. People often argue about what is considered as pay to win. How since it's just cosmetics, there's absolutely no paying involved. However, if your win condition is to have the coolest looking skins, well, in that case, DNA will be pay to win, for you specifically. So
I think there's some valid arguments there, but look, I think that's more of like an indictment on just going into like a free-to-play model of a game anyway. Like any game that is free-to-play is going to have the monetization come in one form or another. Duet Night Abyss has taken the approach that none of the gameplay itself is impacted by the monetization. You can go in and get every character, get every weapon over time, progress your account, and get the full gameplay experience, gameplay. Now, if cosmetics are important, yes, you're going to have to spend money and go into doing that. But if we're talking about that being an issue where you want to have a game where you don't have to pay out the wazoo for cosmetics and you're not impacting your overall gameplay experience, then buy a game. Like that's when you just go and buy a game at that point. Like if you're not wanting to spend on that extra stuff, like then you will have skins or outfits for characters in like other kinds of RPGs. Go play freaking Baldur's Gate, where you can get all the different cosmetics and redesign your character and do whatever you want with that. If you want that to not be an issue, then you go and play a different game. If you're in a free-to-play model that's going to have monetization in one form like that, for me personally, I think it is better to have the monetization exist in the cosmetics for the people who want to go over and above, not by locking gameplay content on it, which again, objectively is better.
We've talked about everything unique DNA has to offer, and I think the gacha-less character system, lack of stamina, and the cosmetics-based monetization are all mostly okay. I'm sure they will appeal to a certain fanbase that will support the game because of it. However, I believe Duet Night Abyss suffers from one major issue, something that's way harder to fix and something more ingrained in its systems. The gameplay is just kinda boring. I mean, I understand that there's all sorts of tricks and maneuvers you can do.
There could be a good argument here. I'm gonna finish letting him cook. There could be a good argument here.
Except for the week I played this game, I just spammed left click and felt I was never challenged. I feel like there's no synergy between a character's kit and how you can express them. The different moves you can do just feel like different variations of the same attack. Because of how you can only on-feel one character at a time, you can't do any elemental interactions or rotations with other characters in the party. I've also read in the reports on the movement not feeling as smooth, but I'm assuming this is fixable.
Well, that's because, okay, he's right. In the early game content, when you are over leveling with some of these levels and your progression, yes, things die very quickly. Some of the missions go super fast. Like I mentioned on the covert letter farming stages, yes, then it does feel like you're flying through. And at those times, it can feel kind of boring. But what he's looking for in terms of the experience is as you get towards the end game, you start building teams. You're going in with people who are bringing in different characters. You're going to find those synergies, characters that work well together. The characters that would normally be part of your backpack are now going to be other players that are coming in there for you. Someone's going to play a Daphne and have the healing and have the crit damage boosts. You're going to get that synergy. That's where you're getting into more of the co-op-like experience, which is what they're truly trying to get players into in the long term for like the depth of the combat. Those options are a little more limited in some ways right now, but I think they will continue to grow in that way. Right now, the real core focus of the game is the grind for the characters.
Something that you cannot change is the very nature of the gameplay. I thought maybe they would have done something different apart from the early beta launch, but now that the game is out, it almost makes me think that they've dedicated most of the resources to revamping the progression system and left the gameplay design as is.
Also, as you progress in the game, you can build different kinds of builds for characters. Like if you want to have a melee build or a range build, or if you want to do like basically a skill damage build, like It is more definitely tilted towards skill damage as of right now, but long term, I think we're going to see more of those builds come out, and you're going to see more of that variety come into those things.
I mean,
if you're talking about just the early game grind, then yes, it's just over level and you're fine.
in my eyes, the gameplay is the beating heart of the game. I can put up with a stingier
Yes.
system if the gameplay is good, but if it's not fun, then even the most generous gacha system can't save you. Now, I normally don't comment on the nature of gameplay since it makes no sense for me to argue that a 3D brawler is better than tower defense. In this case, though, in the context of an action brawler, I feel like DNA just doesn't have much for me to chew on. Now, maybe there's something I'm not getting, but
if you've only done the early game content, then sure.
during my time playing, I just wiped the floor on every stage just by spamming normal attacks on my ult ability. So I didn't see a reason to learn enemy attacks or adapt a different strategy. In other action brawlers, you have different...
If you are doing the later boss stages, 100% you need to adapt. You need to make sure you're like dashing out in and out of their attacks. You need to make sure you're moving, or else you're going to get like smoked by something. So I think this is clearly a sign that he's only done early game combat.
team members meant to play their roles, and it's satisfying to pull off a tight rotation or see how your team comes together. Here, though,
I think the irony of using Tribe 9 there as well, the game that also EOS'd earlier this year because no one was playing it, I think is hilarious to use that as the comparison for game success. Like, seems like a bad pick, man. Seems like a bad pick.
well, everyone is just kind of expected to do damage, and it's not exactly creative how they do it. There's no opportunity for me to know that I'm doing something wrong. As long as you can maintain your character and weapon levels and get some decent demon wedges, you won't be in any danger most of the time. My guess is that eventually, some of the endgame content will be harder and more centered around co-op teams with distinct roles during the fight. So you have more interactable elements with other players and how you all come together to contribute. I know some of the demon wedges change your playstyle quite drastically, with some even adjusting your movesets, though I never got too deep enough into the game to know if it truly matters that much.
Okay, self-report. He admits it. Front load that. Front load that part. Say, hey, this is what I found about the demon wedges, but I haven't reached that point. So this has been my experience so far. And guess what? People will be way less mad about you saying that.
My own prediction is that the game will do well enough to garner and maintain a player base. I don't think it's going to reach the upper echelon of gacha gaming revenues, and I predict that not a lot of games will follow suit what DNA is doing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not going to have the same level of gacha revenue because they're going a more player-friendly gacha. It's less predatory. It's only on cosmetics. It's not on gameplay. They're not capitalizing on FOMO. The reason why they're not going to hit those same levels of revenue is because the game is inherently less predatory in every way. Why are we framing that as a bad thing? Like, yes, we want the game to make some level of money because it needs to be worthwhile for the company to continue it forward. But why are we trying to say that a more pocketbook friendly monetization for the game is inherently a negative? Like, if we want to say like the grind is not going to be for everybody, this game is not going to be for everybody, that's great. Not every game is. That's not an issue. That's not anything new or groundbreaking.
Sorry to say it, I highly respect Pan Studios' decision to remove the character gacha, but let's not kid ourselves. Skins are just not as profitable as trying to capture whales with dupes and signature weapons. The current models of traditional stamina and gacha systems...
Again, Black Beacon, which again, they're probably going to EOS too if they haven't already. Did they EOS already? Why? Again, another comparison that we're using. That's like an interesting pick.
Systems work so well that I really think there's just no point of taking the risk of going the gacha skin route for a lot of developers. No, I don't think Duet Night Abyss will kill gacha games or reform them to a great extent. The impact of the decision to remove stamina and character gacha will be fairly minimal in the grand scheme of things. The monotonous gameplay is something that's a bit more subjective, though I feel this is a much harder problem to tackle than performance or game economy issues. This is my main concern when playing the game, and for me, it leaves a lot to be desired. If you ask me how Duet Night Abyss will perform in the long run, I think it will do just fine. Maybe not to the...
Okay, I think I'm done. I'm done, Psyche. Look, I gotta say this again. I don't hate Psyche. I have nothing against Psyche, and actually a lot of his other videos I think are really good. I think the fundamental problem here, and this whole video, is Psyche basically reviewed Duet Night Abyss like it was a gacha game, when it's not. It's more akin to like Warframe. So if you wanted to do your comparisons, you needed to compare it to another game like Warframe that's going to have that level of grind. That almost like an MMO, like if you think about it, where you're farming stages, you're farming dupes for the characters, you're farming for the weapons, you're farming for your demon wedges, you're farming for gear. Like you're doing all of those things. The progression system is just fundamentally different than a gacha game. And of course, to go towards his final point there at the end is that he doesn't think it's going to completely transform the industry in one title. Like, right. I don't think any game is going to have the same like light switch moment in terms of impacting the industry like Genshin Impact did. Genshin Impact, which was a product of its time in 2020 with COVID and everything else that went on, was industry changing in that it tried to bring gacha more into the mainstream. But now that that genie's out of the bottle and we've seen that start to infect the mainstream, making those micro steps away from it, like basically expecting these gaming companies to say, hey, we're going to willingly take revenue cuts to try and improve the overall gameplay experience. Of course, that's not going to flip overnight. That's not going to be one immediate transformation. But I think Duet Night Abyss is the step in the right direction for not gating gameplay behind some of these free-to-play monetization models, but just the extras, the gravy, the cosmetics. That's totally fine. It's objectively better by every metric, as even at a 1-to-1 comparison. So I have no idea why he came to this conclusion, other than the fact that I think he's just too gotcha-brained in his approach to this game. Duet Night Abyss has totally valid things that you can criticize and things that you can go at it for. Almost everything that he highlighted, like, wasn't it. The best was like on like the gameplay and some of those farming stages going too quickly and it feels like a chore to get through. Yeah, some of them for the covert missions for sure. I definitely feel that, but no, that ain't it, man. Look, at Psyche, if you ever happen to see this, you probably won't. It's a long video and there's a lot of other people talking about this right now. I'd love to chat about it. If anybody wants to put this in front of him, I would love to talk to him about it. But that's gonna be it for this one, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next.